Well, studies have shown that it is soap and water. Just washing your hands with just normal soap and water is just as effective as the most powerful hand sanitizer. Big problem with hand sanitizers is they can contain a chemical called triclosan, and triclosan it can actually uh, lead to antibiotic resistance. So, which is a problem because you then end up with um, bacteria that become resistant to all antibiotics. So if you get a mild bacterial infection, that can run riot in your body, and there's no antibiotics to treat you because they've run out of the. And this has happened in various places. MRSA is one of them, mycelium resistant antibiotic resistance. Um, so, um, we're being warned all the time by the scientists that we're very close to getting to that point. But I don't see the medical profession using pure antibiotics. And the veterinary field, veterinarians are one of the biggest users of antibiotics, and that's leading to antibiotic resistance as well. Yeah, so triclosan is the chemical that you're talking about there in hand sanitizers, which is the big problem.
There was a study that came out last year saying that the triclosan exposure was increasing food sensitivities or food allergies in children, which has
Right.
become really a big issue. But
Yeah.
okay, so say this is I know why people use those. Okay, soap and water, they work brilliant, but you're on the subway or bus or you've touched a doorknob that you feel uncomfortable about. That's when people, they don't have access to that sink hot water and soap and they want something right away. Is there like an alternative that you could carry with you, like a diluted tea tree oil or something that you could spray
Yeah.
on?
Yeah. Yeah. You could make up your own personal hand wipes, just with a cloth, with tea tree oil, with even maybe soaked in vinegar, as we mentioned before. Vinegar is very effective at killing germs. But we've become very germaphobic in that. When I remember when I grew up on a farm, and we didn't have iPads, we didn't have these iPhone games and what have you. We played out in the dirt, we played in the mud, and I drank tank water that came off the roof. It wasn't, sterilized or what have you. And we very rarely got sick. So, you know, this thing about having every surface in your house sterile and pristine, and it's we've been educated by television, by the manufacturers, and they use two techniques. They use the scare technique, where they scare you into thinking that you're going to get something really horrible, and they use the guilt technique that if you don't give your kids these things, it makes you feel guilty. That if you haven't cleaned every surface with 100 different cleaners, and you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and as we've talked about today, the chemicals used in these things are far more likely to make you chronically ill in the long term than because with a lot of these things, if they've ever been studied at all for safety, it's only on animals. We're very different to animals. And they've never been studied over a long-term period. They might be studied for 2 weeks or whatever, and then they declare them to be safe. But who's to say in 20 years' time, the Alzheimer's you've got now, the Parkinson's you've got, the whatever chronic diabetes, whatever chronic illness hasn't been caused by the chemicals that you used when you were in your teens, your 20s, your 30s. They're accumulative. over a long period of time. And I believe that a lot of, if you look at chronic illness escalating all the time, cancer's escalating all the time. So I believe that a lot of it, and a lot of this escalation started around the time of the chemical invasion, which was after the Second World War, when a lot of these chemicals were developed during the Second World War. Then they had stockpiles after them, so they had to work out what they were going to do with them. So they started to put them into cosmetics and personal care products, and they found that they did certain things, and that in a way it was an age of chemical discovery of what they could do with these things. And they didn't know at the time, they didn't have the sophisticated equipment then to determine that they were actually could be very detrimental to health. When they found that out, that didn't stop them using them. There's too much money involved. They just hid those effects.